Europe builds and builds well.
We have the founders and the stories to prove it.
I'm Matilda Nathan, founder of Born.
And I'm Nico Evstathiou, journalist and author.
And together we will be co-hosting some of Europe's greatest founders in Europe Builds.
Scaling challenges, fundraising strategies, diverse cultures, and the art of storytelling. Join us as we explore some tough topics with candor and detail. Hi, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Europe Builds. It is our huge pleasure today to be joined by Haris Pylarinos, founder and CEO of Hack the Box. Now, Hack the Box is a cyber performance center with a mission to provide a human-first platform to create and maintain high-performing cybersecurity individuals and organizations. Founded by Haris, in what started sort of as a passion project in a garage, it has grown into a global powerhouse with clients ranging from Deloitte to the University of South Florida to Toyota to the US Army. And it really stands out because its innovative gamification approach, making cybersecurity learning more accessible, more engaging, more effective, and quite frankly, more fun. So for all of this and more, Haris, thank you so much for being here with us today.
Thank you very much for inviting me, Nico. It's a pleasure to be part of the podcast.
So, we always start with the most classic founder question, which is the elevator pitch. So let's say in 3 minutes or less, or as long as it would take a simple hacking game for me to sort of solve if I were to win first prize and I wanted to be fast, right? Tell us a few things about yourself and what exactly is Hack the Box building.
I'll start with myself. I'm a deeply technical person. I was a hacker as a kid. I grew up to become an engineer because cybersecurity was not a profession. I spent my entire career pivoting from engineering to engineering position, whether that's systems, network, and finally security. Hack the Box took birth when I started pivoting back to security, a bit before GDPR in Greece, where cybersecurity was becoming a hot topic. I wanted to pivot back. This is what I did as a kid. I loved it. I started looking the available training that was available back then to get up to speed with cyber. And I was quite dissatisfied comparing how I learned as a kid about cybersecurity, which I learned by doing and I learned by myself and by researching, versus how cybersecurity is being taught now. Now meaning back then, obviously. Now we're teaching it fabulously. And I created Hack the Box because cybersecurity is problem solving. And usually it's impossible problem solving. And so you cannot have a list of instructions to follow and deliver. You need to use your brain. You need to find very creative solutions. And this cannot be scripted. So all the trainings were scripted. They were failing to develop the hacking mindset required. That to develop, you need hands-on and not guided way of teaching. And I created Hack the Box to mimic how I was learning as a kid. Hands-on, no instructions, and a lot of open internet research. That's how it was created. It was a community, no commercial aspect. And my assumption was that since this is the leading, way of teaching people, that must be what most people prefer. So I will create Hack the Box to find people that are a bit, strange in the way of learning as me. So my goal was not to capture the market. My goal was to find the few individuals that have similar learning preference as myself. But it ended up that most people appreciated this new way of learning. And now it's gradually becoming the standard.
Actually, when I first met Panos Papadopoulos a few years back, when I asked him about what is his kind of the project or the startup that he's most excited about, he had mentioned you guys. It was maybe like 5 or 6 years ago, if I'm not mistaken. Very interesting journey. I want to understand a bit more about your choice, conscious, or it just happened of kind of solo entrepreneurship. You're a single technical founder, right?
I started as a single founder. I've added 2 co-founders in the process. So I created Hack the Box. I launched it. I found one of my co-founders as a player in the platform, James, that he was very passionate and He completed all of the challenges back then, and he was still sticking onto the platform, helping new users. So we started, at some point, he had something that he shouldn't hack. It wasn't part of the game, let's say. So he was kind enough, to report it to me, and that's how we started chatting. And once costs kept rising and I needed to commercialize somehow, I offered him to be part of the new LTD company that we formed. And the second co-founder, Haris, was selling me cybersecurity products in my previous job. So I was in an IT position handling security on a shipping company. He was one of the suppliers. He was working on one of the suppliers. So he had a bit more the commercial aspect. So I said, okay, I'm forming a company. Maybe you should join as well. And that's how the three of us got together.
I want to zoom into that time because I know your story. We've done an interview before, and I remember you telling me, which I found interesting, that you were working on this sort of as a passion project while you had your full-time job, right? So this was sort of
my full-time job while working on Hack the Box for around 2 years, and it was hectic. I mean, I remember I was, and I also had my daughter, and gradually my son also got born through the process of growing Hack the Box. I was waking up at 7:38, taking both kids, dropping them off to my mother-in-law. 9 o'clock sharp, I had to be at work, working until 5, then going back home, playing for a couple of hours with the kids, then going in my room, coding Hack the Box until 2 a.m., and then again. That was an endless loop for 1.5 to 2 years. But it was very tiring, but very productive as well.
Creative, I guess, as well,
Creative,
right?
yes, it was super creative because, and back then, everything is one person. Okay, James was helping also on the code part, but everything was super fast. You were thinking of a feature, next day you have it in production. It's the early stages of a startup and the speed that it operates is phenomenal compared to how we grow to being. As you know, more process comes and more people, and you need to manage and orchestrate the entire R&D cycle.
And how has your experience been from like a highly technical person to actually running the company, the business as well?
It was painful, I would say.
In what way?
As a technical person, whatever you do has an immediate impact. Okay, you write a piece of code, you execute it, and you immediately know if it works or not. And if not, what are the corrective actions? Finding the bug, debugging it, and making a productive code. That's imminent. In the analog world, which is what I operate now at least, everything is based on assumption. And it takes months or sometimes years to, finally figure out if you made the right choice. So you take some actions, you sit back and you watch it develop. And the only way to actually know if you were right or wrong is by looking backwards to see if your decision actually played out. So this helps you build a lot of patience, which is something that I was lacking.
What were the hacks? Like if there was someone listening to this that is very technical, turning into CEO, like what were the hacks that you implemented through this process?
You need to uninstall every technical software that you have on your PC. So when you feel the edge that you need to go in and, quickly fix it, you should 100% delegate. I think it's about delegating, building trust to your peers so they can take this over from you, and building patience.
And if I were to kind of get in like deeper into your head and take us through one decision that you actually had to make, maybe in your early CEO journey or maybe later on as well. Like if I were sitting in a room with you, how did that decision-making process play out?
I don't have anything specific in mind, and some that I have are not to be said publicly. But overall, usually there is data backing a decision. So you look at the data. The hard part is that you don't always have data. And sometimes also, speaking about product, people sometimes don't know what they want. You are there to tell them what they want and introduce it to them, especially if it's something radical like the way we delivered upskilling versus the traditional way. So sometimes it's also gut feeling. It feels right. It works in my head. You develop the idea. You let your peers and your directs, everyone to challenge you. And once you have, solidified a decision, you just take it. And I think the most important part in, running a business is just taking decisions. Doesn't matter if they're right or wrong. Okay, ideally, you need to have more right than wrong decisions. But the worst thing that you can do is just sit back and not take a decision.
So I wanted to shift gears and ask you a little bit about how this project that you started, which generated a lot of interest by a community, right? The community that loves cybersecurity and also gamification, and you started generating users, how that transitioned into a really successful global clientele and client base, right? So how was that leap? Talk us through a little bit the stages of turning that community into a client. What were some of your first big clients? How you went about acquiring them, etc.
Hack the Box in its first 3, 4, maybe even 5, but let's stick to 3 or 4 years. Its growth has been very organic, and it came out of necessity. So Hack the Box started as a community, no monetization involved. But due to the hype that it had and all the new users coming, maintaining it was becoming impossible with my own funds. So the first consumer edition, which wasn't targeting B2B but individuals, was materialized because of the need to maintain the platform. The community practically said, we want to pay something and have access to better performance, because back then it was a performance issue. So we had very limited resources on servers, a lot of users, everything was running slow. So the first VIP product that targeted consumers was you pay something, but you go to the premium servers, so you have better performance. And I still remember the day that we launched it. My plan was I will buy one more server, so I will spend some cash that I will not be able to maintain in the long run, but I will cut the server, I'm simplifying it, but I will cut the server into 50 pieces, okay, and I will sell 50 subscriptions. Those 50 users will have the server all by themselves. And I launched the payment process and everything so they can sign up. And I was on the Stripe dashboard, and it was like pop, 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 pop. It started popping and filled within the first 1.5 hour. So I sold out basically in the first 1.5 hour. Then I got a second server and I said, this is it, but I'm not gonna buy a third one in the first month, because if all those people churn, then I will still have to pay for this and I will not be able to maintain. So I moved very gradually and very slow towards growing, because I didn't have capital. It was all, inbound from our consumers back then, and then investing into growing more the business. Funding happened in 2019, 2 years after I was running the company.
Did you feel that there was some sort of product market fit at that point? And then how did you, at some point you pivoted more into the B2B space. How did that
Yes.
kind of pan out?
Well,
Which is a
the
completely
product,
different
first of all,
ballgame.
was a hit because I've spent zero in advertising. It's just word of mouth. And we kept selling out more subscriptions. B2B was born again from a customer that said, I want to buy this for my business, but I want the whole server. I don't want to share with those other 50 people. And the first B2B product again was one server for yourself. Obviously, since then we've increased more features in the B2B side, other features on the consumers, other features on the community. But back then, it was again the enterprise product was one of our consumers saying, I want to buy this for my business. How do I do it? And then we've built the enterprise product just for this customer, and then we started selling it to more.
I have one specific question around that, because I've seen many businesses where they pre-product, like full program market fit. They're trying to cater to specific needs that are not scalable. So like a client would come with a specific need and another would come with a slightly tweaked one. How did you manage that into kind of the beginning of your B2B journey?
In the beginning, we just created the product, based on what we consider an enterprise product. We got feedback from the customers, but we implemented basically only what seemed like a good idea when you have few customers. When you have a lot of customers, you collect again feedback and you implement the features that align with most customers. But if you go into the rabbit hole of generating features because one of your good customers asked you to, then you stop being a SaaS company, just a service company coding software for your customers.
And kind of, did you have a specific process? Because like a lot of companies try to do it this way, but they do kind of end up, especially if the founder says, oh yes, let's cater to this type of client and then let's cater to the other type of client, and it can become chaotic. Kind of, do you have kind of some best practices? Because it sounds like you did it pretty well.
We've passed through several stages. I'm not saying we did it pretty well. We did it in a non-programmatic way. So we had a lot of interactions with the customers. I had a lot of interactions, and all of the now executives, back then the founding members. So we pretty much knew what most customers need. Afterwards, there was a gap until we brought some customer success, and that's where we had a bit of, we were not syncing that much with the customer needs, and then customer success comes in, which was something that wasn't in top of mind because, again, I learned doing that business through Hack the Box. I'm not serial CEO or entrepreneur. And once we got customer success, I realized how valuable customer success is and how it can help in both retaining the customers, but also passing the customers' word to the relevant people so they become actions.
And today you have how many clients, give or
We
take?
should have more than 2,000 clients, if I recall correctly. We have a lot. And the majority of the revenue of the business now is enterprise and federal.
A big part of your clients are say companies or even educational institutions, right? Because you've taken this gamification approach, which I'm sure they really value, but then you also have sort of government contracts, right? So I wonder, let's focus a little bit on the latter since Matt already took the start. Like, how did you go about approaching them? Is it a different kind of product when you cater to a government service? And what has been sort of your takeaway from that collaboration so far?
I think it's a bit of a different packaging rather than a different product with some value add, let's say, features. Again, because our product was very unique, some federal customers just, came and asked for it.
Inbound, the dream.
Yeah, it was inbound. We are that organization, we want that product. They knew what they wanted. In some other cases, especially when you scale, you need experts on this space, and we have a full federal team working just with federal entities. And this is going very well. I mean, with one of our customers is the US Army, and we have several other ministries of defense globally. And it makes sense because we have the easy stuff, let's say, and the basic stuff that, it's for the masses, but we can go into a very high level in terms of it. In Hack the Box, it's a matter of how deep you want to dive, but there's no bottom, or let's reverse it. There's no top.
There's no ceiling.
Yeah, you can always go higher, and I think that applies to such organizations. There's always something new to learn, and there's always ways to become more advanced and more capable.
And I also had one quick question about gamification, right? Because it's clearly something that now is quite of a hot topic in education in general, specifically in the kind of education that you're trying to serve. But I wonder if initially you had to also sort of convince some of your clients about the value of this approach, because it could have been seen a little bit radical back in 2018, 2020, let's say. Or did your clients immediately understand or took it seriously because of the value it had in the community and the word of mouth and all the things you were talking to us?
Our clients ask for more gamification.
Nice.
Even enterprise customers, even federal customers. I mean, education should not be boring, and it doesn't have to be boring. For somehow we all grew up in schools where we had a teacher telling us to write 10 times, the same thing and then take homework. Education is something in our mind that is deemed boring, okay, not fun. I'm speaking with my kids. How was school today? It was terrible, boring, and I have to do more work now, and I feel miserable. I felt miserable also. I've never enjoyed education, traditional education. But education can be fun, and you are not lowering the quality of training that you get by gamifying it. You increase it.
Yeah.
Because you add the stickiness, you add the competitive aspect where, especially in our profession, everybody wants to show that they're better than their peers. So when you play a game, okay, all those online games, etc., you spend hours, but you don't feel like you have to. You do it because you like to. The same approach is with us. You play Hack the Box, and we say you play. We don't use the term you study at Hack the Box. You play Hack the Box. It also turns out that while you play, you gain a lot of information. The information sticks because it's tied to emotions. You feel sometimes you feel frustrated.
Or
You feel
reward.
the excitement of winning. All those emotions help us retain knowledge better than just reading knowledge. It helps knowledge stick to our head.
And I guess there's a sense of urgency also inherently in cybersecurity, right? And there's a sense of like it is sort of a life and death situation, not quite, but you need to sort of instill a sense of you solve it under time pressure, etc. Which I guess is
Yes.
you're absolutely right. You can't really learn that from a book in practice. You have to sort of dig deeply and
Exactly. You need
do the
to,
work.
you need to simulate the crisis, and the players need to have so much of it that when a real crisis happens at work, it's just like another day at the office. So you're not panicking. You know what to do.
I wanted to go back to kind of the first clients you guys went out and signed. Are you still involved in the process, first of all, of signing clients?
No, we
Not
have
at all.
like, I don't know, probably 80 to 100 people in the sales organization.
Not
I
even the
go
US
on some
Army?
key accounts, obviously, I join.
The enterprise plays like a different kind of ball game. So if there was a founder thinking about doing this switch from B2C into B2B, kind of were there some early on tips you could offer to take into account?
Take it slow. Yeah, I think take it slow, see what works. Don't take, the investor suggestion of, take 20 salespeople, hire 20 salespeople tomorrow in US, hire 10 BDRs. That doesn't work. Okay, take it slow, build the process, and once those people start to perform, replicate, add more people and replicate the process. But the other way around doesn't work. You just lose money. With most Greek startup founders have lost money this way, especially when expanding to US. The advice is there. I got the advice as well, although I did the same mistake. So I'm just replaying the advice for future founders, although most likely they will do the same mistake. They will learn from it and they will become better.
Like, I know, I really don't get why people have to experience it firsthand in order to actually.
It's a totally different thing taking an advice and experiencing it. I think you learn by failure. Okay, and that's the only way you learn, most probably.
Similar to what we were saying with gamification and education, right? You have to learn by doing it.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
That's fair. That's fair. And I wanted to, like, you mentioned kind of Greece and insinuated the US as well. And I just wanted to change a bit gears into this. Like, you came out of a garage in Greece, in Athens, like tiny city, and then you went to conquer the US. Can you tell us a bit about how this transition has been for you?
Okay, for the business again, it happened very naturally. It wasn't forced. We had US customers before we set foot in the US. When we set foot in the US, we were to do it more methodically and not opportunistically while in the beginning. For me as a person, it makes me proud for, being able to do so. And allowed me, to live experiences that I wouldn't live in any other way. I mean, the travel, the events that I've been, the people that I've met, it's a different world, especially from a person in Greece working as an IT in a company. The transition is huge.
But you have kept a big part of your R&D activities in Greece, which I loved hearing about last time we
Like
spoke.
90-something% of our R&D is in
Right.
Greece.
Tell me about that. Why does it make perfect sense? I mean,
Because we have excellent engineers. Greece has excellent engineers, excellent hackers. Greece breeds this open thinking and thinking outside the box, as we say, because you need to think outside the box to get the job done. I mean, and now everything is a bit easier, but I mean, I remember the days that I had to move from 10 public agencies to get the stamp and missing a paper, and then having to think how I will convince the clerk to do my job. So again, in school, sometimes you don't have the books in time. Sometimes you have to be creative. Universities, you need the notes. How do they call them? That it's not enough to have the books. You need to have the notes from the lectures. And people trade the notes to actually, be prepared for the exams.
It's a monetized market, apparently. Like people
It is a
buy the
monetized
note.
market, yes. But everyone has a friend, that has some good notes. So it's not straightforward. That's what nothing is straightforward. And that cultivates an open mindset and the will to get the job done, acknowledging that nothing will be straightforward. And that results in building hackers, not necessarily in the technical world, but hackers in life, figuring out
mindset.
creative ways to get the job done.
Can I ask a question about how do you, are you a Europe optimist or no? Like, can Europe within the tech ecosystem really become a player, or it's kind of a lost bet?
Isn't it already?
Could there be, though, with the AI wave, kind of a change of gear and getting them to be in the forefront?
I understand your point. The thing is that most large organizations are in the US. That results in that most strategic acquirers are in the US. And once you grow from a certain point onwards, let's say that you want to be acquired by Microsoft, a random example, shouldn't you start prepping your business as a US organization so it's easier to digest from Microsoft? That makes sense. But aside from that, product-wise and technology-wise, people-wise, we are capable of, launching huge organizations. Retaining them, I think, is the question here. Can we retain large organizations, or as once they become large enough, they will move their entity to US? Yeah, I don't know if I can answer that, to be honest.
But if we could have a follow-up here, what are one or two things you would like to see change, or directions you'd like to see us pushing towards so that we can retain them? Like, what do you think are some of the fixes here?
Those fixes are beyond my area of expertise, to be very honest. And it's very hard to compete in a huge market like the US. What I can say for sure is that you can have a US customer base. So as an organization, you can grow significantly by exploiting customer bases globally. And I see no reason to operate the company from the US.
And would you say today your client base is between Europe and the US? What's the split?
US should be around half of my entire customer base.
Okay.
And then other countries follow, like UK, Australia, then rest of Europe.
Okay, I was expecting to be even more in the US. It is a
No.
bit.
We have plenty of customers outside US.
We always close our podcasts with a little bit of more abstraction and philosophy in the spirit of having two Greek co-founders and a Greek guest as well. And one of the questions I'm interested in, you sort of touched upon it in some elements of your responses here, is whether you're more afraid of success or of failure. And why on each side? I mean, some of the founders we've asked, they've gave us responses on both. So are you more afraid of success or of failure, and why?
Afraid is a tough word. I would entertain both success and failure. Everything has its pros and cons. Okay, from failure you learn, you become better. Through our failures we learn. When we're succeeding, we're just partying, and life goes on. On the other hand, failing means that you would have failed also your employees, because this what is considered a success. IPO, a large exit, whatever, that benefits more people than you. Okay, it benefits the investors, their LPs, but it also benefits your employees, and usually we have more empathy towards our employees for obvious reasons. So failing them would feel bad. That's why I wouldn't want to do that. On the other hand, on success, what's next? Okay, you succeeded. Did you go IPO? What's next? I'm hearing from all of friendly founder CEOs that I'm chatting that have exited that they are struggling to do that next thing. I mean, they feel so empty afterwards because you are operating in an extreme pace constantly, and suddenly there's nothing. Okay, you reached the oasis. Okay, you struggle to find the oasis, and once you find it, you cannot live within it. You need to go back to the struggle.
I think it's true. I think also founders identify themselves, like identify with a company so much that it's them. So if you take that company, then probably there is also an identity crisis of who I am if I don't have Hack the Box or like whichever the company might be.
I'm not that tied to. I love Hack the Box. Okay, I created it, but I understand that as your kids, you expect them to grow at age and then find a home and do their thing. I have the same belief for the company. I want to grow, to succeed, and to grow above me. Actually, I think it's about the intensity that this job has. That's what you miss. You're constantly in an adrenaline mode. Yeah, and then you probably miss the adrenaline.
There's an interesting parallel here with athletes. If you talk to athletes, they will say that they are, picturing the moment after they win the gold medal. I mean, Olympic level athletes, top athletes. And they will share with you that the day after, they almost always sink in an existential depression because they're used to this fast pace of training.
Yeah,
once you get there, you feel the vacuum of the void afterwards.
And just one last remark about what you said before. Like you touched upon education a few times. Clearly, that's what your startup is doing different than everyone else. You mentioned failure a couple of times. And like we're discussing with another founder around how failure is not part of the Greek education and how different it actually is in the US. How would you change, what would be the first steps you would do to change that in the Greek mentality, let's say? Where would you start from if you had to solve that complex problem?
I will start from the families, actually. We all say, bravo, what excellent. It doesn't matter that you lost. Okay, it doesn't matter, but, at the same time, it matters. So we are too forgiving we should be forgiving. Failure is a good thing. I mean, through failure, you learn. But I think we are afraid to outline failure in a young age. We're just telling them you did great, even if they did not that great. I think it's part of our culture, though.
How do you do that differently with your kids, if you do it differently?
When they perform medium, let's say, I tell them that you can do better. I mean, it's okay. And they're cool with that. I mean, they strive for not, okay, I'm not saying I'm gonna, on very serious stuff, they failed in, university, I'm gonna say, you were not good enough, do it again. But I mean, one thing we do is that we play with the ball. We call it kefalies or klotzies, and I throw the ball, and they either have to kick it or do
Headbutt it.
with a head. Sometimes they throw an excellent shot. Sometimes it's terrible. When it's terrible, I tell them that was terrible. You suck. I'm not telling them you suck, but you get the point.
Yeah, we get the gist.
They strive to become better, and they understand and they find it natural that you're not winning always. And this is the natural thing. Sometimes you win, sometimes you don't. The times you don't, you get pushed to try harder. That's how you become better and better. Failure is part of your evolution as a person. And I think we shouldn't be shy in outlining things that we could do better without obviously demoralizing someone.
Yeah.
Can I ask one last thing?
Of course.
What is the one thing that you're trying to do better for 2025, 2026?
To do better, company-wise, I assume, focus. We usually do a million things that distract us. And if you look back, because we said that only by looking back you understand what worked, 3 of those worked. I think what we need, and actually it's part of our strategy for the year, is be more focused. Focus on the things that work or they could have a high impact. Devote yourself to them and let go of the noise.
Cut through the noise, yeah. I like that. It's actually coincidentally one of my resolutions for this year on a different field. But absolutely. Awesome. So Haris Pylarinos talking us through how a company goes through from a garage to a global player, from a community to a global clientele, talking about how you radically redefined education in the cybersecurity space and how we can rethink our approach in Europe with regards to building, with regards to education, with regards to failure. Thank you so much for sharing all your wonderful insights with Europe.
Thank you very much for inviting me.
Thank you for joining us for another episode of EUROPEBUILDS, where we show that the European ecosystem is no longer an underdog story.
If you liked our episode and want to hear more, follow EuropeBuilds on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and Born's YouTube channel.